محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال رسول الله sallallahu, alejhi, sellem أبردوا الطعام فإن الحار لا bereketa فيه. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu said to let your food cool, because verily, for sure, in hot, scalding food, there is no barakah in it. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu is giving us a hadith here that has a variety of lessons, and I think that if everyone read this hadith today, we would walk away from it 30 seconds later and say, you know what, I've mastered it, I understand it, it's very simple, let your food cool, bam. But there's actually a lot of nuanced beauty in this hadith. The first is that we're going to go layer by layer. The first is the very surface layer, is that the Prophet ﷺ is telling us to let our food cool when it comes out of the stove, the oven, or off the stove, right? Because there's no barakah in scalding hot food. Now, what the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ here is telling us is to let the food get to a reasonable temperature. He's not saying wait till it becomes ice cold, but let it get to a reasonable temperature before eating it. Now, anyone who reads this hadith with a little bit of analysis can understand something, that this hadith is teaching us about being patient and about not being hasteful, not trying to rush things. The Prophet ﷺ is saying that usually when someone is making food or when someone is receiving food, they're hungry. But the Prophet ﷺ is saying, don't rush it. Don't rush it. Be patient. Don't be a slave to your desires, your stomach, so much that you can't even wait for a few minutes to enjoy the meal that you've been waiting for. That's layer number one. Layer number two, which is very interesting, and for any one of you who are like me and who unfortunately at times don't always remember this hadith and eat scalding hot food and burn the roof of your mouth, like me sometimes, you know exactly what the Prophet ﷺ is saying when he's saying that there is no barakah in scalding hot food. What does that mean? Imagine this scenario. You're waiting for this beautiful dish of spaghetti or of pasta. And it comes to the table. It's super hot and you're super hungry. You roll up a nice, bit around your fork. You take a nice chunk of that meatball and you put it in your mouth. Now, it's scalding hot. It starts to instantly burn anything in your mouth. Your tongue, your roof, your gums, everything starts to go on fire. You open your mouth and like steam's coming out. What do? You quickly chew as much as you can, right? While the jahannam is still in your mouth, and then you swallow it and it's burning everything on its way down, and you have to take a glass of water and just wash it down. But from that point on, you've basically burned your taste buds, you burned the roof of your mouth, and your entire esophagus is now burned. Now that might have been a little bit dramatic, but you all get the point, is that a person who takes that bite, there is no barakah in that bite. There's no enjoyment in that bite. And the person doesn't even feel like their appetite was fulfilled from that bite because it was just so painful, such a painful experience. So the second layer of understanding here is that the Prophet ﷺ is saying that super hot food doesn't have barakah in it. Because why? Because the person doesn't get the fulfilled desire that they wanted from that food, to enjoy it and to have their stomach not be hungry anymore from it. The third level here of this hadith that I wanted to talk about is something that's a little more 10,000 foot level, as my friend Nadim would say. It's a little more outer scope, right? You got to kind of zoom out a little bit. And that is, look at the fact that this hadith is super detailed. This hadith is something in life that we would consider not to be faith-oriented. Like, why would the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ comment on how you're supposed to eat food, right? Isn't his job to connect us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to teach us about Islam and Tawheed and Da'wah and XYZ? Isn't that his job? So why is he now coming to the dinner table, alayhi sellem, and giving people pointers on how to eat? This religion is beautiful. And part of the reason why it's beautiful, one of the small reasons of why it's beautiful, there's many, is because it's comprehensive. It teaches us the ins and outs. It teaches us the big and the small, allowing enough room for flexibility of personality in the big and the small, but it gives us the amazing pointers and guidance in regards to our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our theology, but also our akhlaq and our adab and our character and development. And what's interesting is that as you get older, I may have not noticed this when I was as young, but as you get older, when you start to interact with people, especially shuyukh and scholars and righteous people and very, very noble elders in your community, what you notice about them and what you admire about them whenever you interact with them, perhaps at a dinner party or something, is you notice their details. Because you already know the big chunks about their life. You know that they're successful here and they work here and that they're nice people, but what you notice are the small details. You notice that when you eat dinner with their family, they're the one that gets up and takes the plate from their wife and kids to the kitchen instead of letting their wife and kids take their own plates. You notice that they serve food to their guests first. You notice that they make sure that the tea is served to the scholars first. You notice that they wait until their food is cool before they eat. You notice these small details. And that's where you really start to appreciate people. So the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ here is not only giving us a big picture, but he's giving us the small details and saying, look, don't neglect these. And he's giving us the spiritual guidance in regards to our character and the small details, saying don't neglect these, because these are the things that really matter. If someone forgets about the details are like the glue, like the brick and the mortar. All these bricks that you see in buildings, in between that mortar is the details. If you lose the details, you might be able to survive for a little bit, but eventually the bricks are just going to tumble over. So we have to make sure we focus on both. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to practice everything that has been said and heard, and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to be people who are able to understand the big picture and the details as well. Jazakumullah khairan, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.